Good evening. It is 7 p.m. on Thursday, July 27th, 2023. I am calling the Lunenburg Finance Committee to order. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access channel and on Facebook Live on the Public Access Facebook page. The following information is provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link below listed on the town website calendar to join the public meeting webinar. From a telephone, dial the toll-free number 888-475-4499. Enter webinar ID 841-3573-6161. This agenda lists all the topics which may be discussed at the meeting and are those reasonably anticipated by the chair. Votes may be taken as a result of these discussions. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by open meeting law. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Are there any announcements from... Oh, 1 second. There we go. Are there any announcements from the committee tonight?
Nope.
All right. The only announcement I have is that we have a new member joining us. We have Jean Russell, so thank you very much for stepping up.
Well,
She
thank
has
you
a background in
for taking me.
finance. Happy to. She has a background in finance, so I'm very excited to have the help, because we will certainly need it in the upcoming months. Other than that, we still technically have some open positions on the committee, so feel free. If anybody is interested, fill out a talent bank form, submit it to the town as well. It's pretty easy to get done, and the commitment over the summer is quite relaxed. There's only a few months out of the year where it gets a little more intense. With that, is there any public or any announcements from the public? Or public comment from the public, excuse me. Seeing none. Any public comment from the committee? Excellent. Without a current finance director and a town manager, I don't know if she's in her office, but we haven't seen her just yet. I'm fine moving on to new business. I have a feeling this will be a pretty quick meeting. There's not too much to go over. First topic is committee reorganization. This is simply because we've been operating without a clerk right now. So I realize that we do not have a full committee as we stand. So I'm certainly open to doing a full reorganization at this point. I would prefer to wait until we have Tom as well. I did reach out to him to ask if he had any requests or anything, but I haven't heard back from him yet. But we are currently operating without a clerk, and we're already 3 meetings behind. So, as far as I know, we have not had any applicants to fill our admin position, but I have not checked in on that one in a little while.
The minute taker?
Correct, yeah. So at this point, the minutes being taken and sent over to the town and whatnot kind of fall directly on whomever the clerk is that we would nominate and vote for. Effectively, it's just going back, watching the old videos or the recording of the video, writing up some minutes, submitting them, and then we vote on them at the next meeting or the meetings thereafter. Not too terribly difficult, but as we've had before, as we've seen before, when we don't get it done, we end up with a slew of old meetings that go back months, which technically breaks open meeting law. So for now, again, I'm fine pushing it if we do want to wait until we have Tom here as well, just have a full discussion with the 5 of us. I threw it on there just in hopes that we would get everyone here. So unless anybody is just itching to be a clerk for now, I'm fine pushing it. Any preferences? No?
No.
Okay. So we'll push that off for the next meeting then. With any luck, we'll have everybody here. As far as liaisons go, we have technically already reorganized that with the leaving of Tom Baelish and Caesar as well. But with a new member, we certainly have the opportunity to kind of move those around if there's anything that we would like to hand over. So the liaison role is simply we act, for example, we have Brian from the school committee currently on the call. He is the liaison from the school committee for the finance committee. We have one heading back as well. Hi, Brian. For a number of different ones. We have the big ones typically are the school committee because their meetings last quite a long time and they're pretty big. We have capital planning committee. Well, we actually nominate a member for that one. The fire department, the library, the council on aging, just kind of the general ones to report back on any financial needs. So at this point, the big ones that are out there, I guess, we don't have any that are currently open, but I would like to try and see if there are any that you would be interested in as far as any of the committees go. And I have a feeling that, at least for myself, I don't want to speak for everybody, I would be happy to hand over any one of mine just to say, here you go, feel free, take it. It goes through DPW, sewer, parks, all of those ones. So if there's any that interest you, please let us know and we can have a discussion on it.
Great.
Are there any offhand that you might be interested in?
The DPW sounds interesting.
DPW? Okay. Jay, what do you think? Would you be willing to?
Yeah, if she's interested.
It's entirely up to you.
Just because I think it's awesome, everything that gets done around this town.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You'd like to do it?
So, have we had a facilities liaison?
It's sort of been Jay in a sense because he's been doing sewer and DPW. So in a roundabout way, we have, but not directly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because facilities has now been broken off from DPW.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So
Yeah.
Okay.
that would be the other one that has a lot of, should have a liaison, I guess.
Do they actually? Okay. So that would be a tricky one because there's still overlap between the DPW and facilities.
Not as much,
No. Okay.
no.
Would you like?
And that's Chris Ruth now, right, is the facilities director?
Correct. Would you like to take on facilities as well?
Sure.
We'll just start adding them on. Excellent. Okay. Is there anything that anybody would like to switch around with what they have? Chris, I know you've had parks for a while, but it's entirely up to you again.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I have parks is my wife's on the commission, so it's easy to get
It's easy to get a hold of the minutes.
but if anyone wants to take a more independent view of parks, I'm sure Anna would welcome that, but
I'm happy to go either direction, whether it's reorganized completely or just kind of stick with how we are for now until we have more membership or full membership.
yeah, I guess, do we have a list of all of them? We usually have that.
We do, and I of course didn't print it off
Yeah.
today. I thought about it as I was driving over here, that it's pretty difficult to go over them while we're actually in the meeting. That's all right.
And then again, I think maybe a full, when all five of us are here, that might be a better time to have the
It's kind
full
of,
discussion.
I just wanted to make sure we have at least coverage for now for everything that is currently open, which was facilities, and I wanted to make sure Gene had something at least. But yeah, I agree. I don't think it needs to be anything that's set in stone every week. I'm fine with things moving around all over the place whenever they need to be moved, so. I will have that list of everything for next week, or for 2 weeks from now. Excuse me, not 2 weeks from now, because we're not meeting until August 24th. For August 24th, we'll have that one.
Okay.
So that'll hopefully give us time to get a fifth, or a sixth member as well. Okay, so that brings us to our past meeting minutes. So we have 3 outstanding meetings so far that I could find, the 25th of May and the 6th, and the 8th and 22nd of June, that we have no record for.
Those are in the drive, or?
I
No.
don't see them. They're not.
No, nobody, we have no minutes for them. We have the recorded videos, but this is after Amanda had left, correct? She finished up through the end of April, but nothing into May.
Okay.
So that falls on us, at least for now, to write up. I am fine, I guess, either divvying up them, assigning them, or waiting until we have a clerk and giving the clerk a wonderful job of starting off with 4 meetings worth of minutes, so 5 potentially.
Yeah, I guess lacking the clerk, maybe the fairest way is for each to take one.
That was kind of my thought as well. I think, because we may not have a clerk next meeting as well, depending upon if everyone's able to make it. So does anybody have, you want to draw straws?
Which one was the
Yeah,
shortest?
it's-
Exactly. There's no looking ahead. I didn't look behind either. Unfortunately, I have no idea which is the shortest. I have a feeling they're all relatively short.
I'll take the 8th out of no.
The 8th?
What are the other two?
The 25th of May and the 22nd of June.
One of them, I don't.
And I'll take the other one.
Why don't you take tonight?
Okay.
There we go. Which month do you like better, May or June? In general?
I'll do May, I guess.
May,
Was it May
okay.
25th, you said?
May 25th, yeah. And I'll take the 22nd then. And 7/27 for Jean. Perfect.
Of course, we should have just given them to Tom, seeing.
Oh, since he's not here, can't defend himself.
Yeah.
He's now the committee chair as well, right? We'll be doing that one.
Hold on a second. I may have had a volunteer.
For minutes?
Yeah.
For your minutes or for all of our minutes?
My wife will do all 4 of them.
Oh,
Well,
I don't know, apparently she's bored or something. Okay.
wow, fantastic. Thank you, Ms.
this is
Bernard.
not like a little quid pro quo thing, is it?
You have to do all the parks ones? Yeah.
I don't know. Probably planning a vacation when I go home or something.
Do you want to take care of then just putting them up in the drive when,
Yep.
when she's dumped them that
Yep,
way? They don't,
she-
I don't
she'll
care if
do
they come
that.
through me.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you, Karen. Appreciate that. So scratch all of that and nobody has to do anything.
Thank you.
This is her once and only offer, she said.
One and done.
This extends until we have a clerk, right? So again, that moves us on to old business with tax assessments. I was just going to ask the town manager if there are any updates, but I don't think she's here still, so unless anybody has any other updates. Last I had heard that they were all going out, but I have not heard anything beyond that about if they had decided how to disperse the funds or whatnot. I am completely behind on that.
Yeah, I
They
don't
were,
know.
they were mailing out checks.
Is that what they were doing?
Yeah.
Okay. And the last that I had heard was we were at, I don't actually remember the figure, but it was over $1 million that was being proposed for.
Just over $1 million?
I don't recall exactly what the number was. I know it was over $1 million. But that was going to be not including any of the interest that would have been accruing over that time as well. So it was going to be a little bit higher. But according to the town manager, the last time we spoke about a month ago, the money that we put into, in there for abatements was sufficient.
Okay, good.
So we should not have any issues, and there will be money left over, likely left over, for the Board of Assessors to then hopefully push back to the town. But I'm very glad to see that that's being taken care of. That moves us on to minutes, which we have none, until Ms. Menard gets us some. It's going to be a very quick
She don't
meeting.
call it Miss Menard, she won't do them.
No? Okay.
Just Karen.
To to Karen. Committee reports. Are there any committees that have met and have any reports to give?
So one big one for parks is, they did submit a grant application for $500,000 park grant. So that went in about a few weeks ago, which is probably why Karen has time for minutes now, because that took up a lot of time.
Is that for Marshall Park?
From Marshall Park, yeah. They have already received a couple questions back related to it, but hopefully it goes forward. So, any support we can get for that, obviously that's a significant contribution to the overall plan.
Are there any strings that are attached with that?
There's a lot of criteria that come with them, but everything that was in there was thought about in the preparation of the park itself. So like, there needed to be 100 parking spots and I think ADA compliant and,
Okay.
that sort of thing.
But the town doesn't have to match or anything like that for
There
it?
was matching, but they got $1 million of ARPA funding.
Right.
So they had,
They could take it out of
They
that?
had.
Okay. Perfect.
and then the way they phased the park, it should all be.
Excellent. How far would that take us in for phases then, if that's granted today?
I think that would, I think it would be enough for the first phase. The second phase is kind of the bigger one where they're redoing
Right.
the fields.
Right.
And then the third phase would be more of the, access to like the lake, I think, and stuff like that.
The hiking trail
Yeah.
around the lake, around the pond. Okay, excellent. Any other committee updates?
I don't think so.
Brian, is there anything from the school committee that we need to know about?
No, not that, we haven't met, we're trying to set a date for, an August meeting.
Okay. Very slow summer. I don't have any committee reports to meet, to respond as well, or to relay as well. The Municipal Building Design Committee, I don't know if they've met, but the other new committee that I'm on has not met either. So since we had our initial kickoff meeting, I don't believe anything is coming until October or so. Topics for future meetings. So typically over the summer, we'll look back at some of our policies. We have not done that this summer. We could certainly do that at the next meeting.
So, Peter Beardmode called me today, and he had actually hoped to be at the meeting today, but he had a prior obligation. So, we had the whole issue where we voted on the air conditioners at the primary school. And then more recently, there's, I guess the roof's leaking here in many spots. And there is some capital money related to envelope and, care of this building, but it's insufficient for what this building needs. And I think the current plan is to take a phased approach to that based on the available capital funds. So I think there was a question as to, well, how's that any different than what the schools had to go through? And I'm kind of thinking, having talked to Peter earlier and then, following both of those and some others that have come in as we funded something, but it was inadequate for the amount that was necessary. I'm wondering if there's like fiscal policy that's necessary related to how capital money is managed and how, if it's insufficient or if it becomes out of scope with the original, voted on portion, how to deal with that. Because I kind of felt like the whole thing with the schools was a little ad hoc in my mind as to, you know, who had the approval authority at that point to say, yeah, you can go ahead and do this, which is different than what was voted on. Or how do you do this building, which was perhaps a little bit different than what was voted on, because, you know, you voted it for like 4 items, you're gonna do 1 of them for that same amount of money. So I almost feel like there's some kind of fiscal policy, management policy around capital, when the capital is kind of a little bit different than what came up through town meeting. And I almost think that ultimately it's gonna be something that maybe capital planning, us, in some combination of school board / select board needs to weigh in on. So anyways, that was one thing that, like I said, Peter had brought up. I know it had, at least the correspondence had gone to select board. I don't know if they're gonna talk about it. I do see that Heather's on now too. Maybe she has an opinion on this as well, but it just feels a little strange, like we're working without rules associated with that. So
I agree. I think there's certainly something we could do, but I would argue that we sort of already have that in place by the process of capital planning, going to town meeting, and then if it changes, it is up to the person to come back and say, here's what's changed. And I applaud the school department for kind of doing that and saying, we should go forward, and we should, and to the town manager as well, to say we should go to the capital planning, we should go to the select board and the finance committee to say, this is what's changed about it. Do we think that it still falls within the scope? Which 2 of the 3 committees said it does. 1 of them said, no, it doesn't. So that, I think it does, in this instance, kind of provide that oversight.
I guess I'm not sure that that's documented. So if that's the process and that's the policy,
Okay.
I feel like it should be written as a policy, and then in the future, we know how to act upon that policy,
Okay.
having gone through some deliberate process to develop that policy.
That if there is a change to what's the perceived scope, or the numbered items, or this, or this, or this, that it should go through some type of a committee
Yeah.
hearing, basically.
Yeah,
Or
and I think
through-
ultimately, it's probably select board and school committee that need to, you know, put forward that policy and adopt it, because we're not a policy group. Oftentimes, we may be part of the policy development and they act upon it, but I don't know. To me, that seemed like a potential reasonable approach to what Peter had brought up to me earlier. So.
There are procurement laws, processes that have to be followed. Chapter 30B, that's pretty detailed regarding, bidding and purchasing, scope of work, etc.
I can address that if, question,
Please do, go right ahead.
right? So the question was posed by Mr. Beardmore to myself, and included in that were 2 of the selectmen. So the town hall project is kind of a different scenario than the AC project, just because the scope of how it was described, the work to be done, had changed with that project. And that's why, and what was presented to town meeting, is overall different than the project for the town hall. So we're not changing that scope. The roof is still looking to be repaired, the chimneys included, a couple basement windows. So none of that's changing, it's just phasing it, because we know the roof is priority now that it's leaking. There may not be sufficient funds, but there is a policy. It's in the Select Board's Policy and Procedures Manual, and that has been in place for some time. So it outlines if there's insufficient funds within the capital appropriation, what's next, then departments could turn to their operating budget to help supplement that. They could go to, the town manager can, within that fiscal year of that capital plan, transfer funds to cover a deficit for another project, if there's a surplus in another area. So those are options. That project, when it was put out to bid for, which included the roof the first time, it also included the clock tower and the structural repairs to the clock tower, which wasn't part of the capital article, but it made sense at that time to put it out to bid as one project. But due to we received one bid, and it was around 300,000, which we don't think that's a realistic amount for that project. And by also now doing it in phases, we'll be able to, we think we might get a better response with just doing the roof and chimneys first.
So when you say doing it in phases, is it that rephasing it, you would still get done everything that was on the original description of the project for the $66,000?
Yes, but if we go out to bid for the roof and chimneys, and depending on where those bids come in at, then we'll have to reassess what we have available for funds, whether it's in the operating budget or the capital plan.
Okay, so you're not envisioning that we would need to go back for additional capital money to cover the scope that was in the original line item on the capital plan?
I do not believe so. If we, at that point, we would go back to town meeting and whatnot.
Okay,
But the remainder of that project, like the windows that were under that capital line for the town hall, that's a minor part. But the structural repair to the clock tower could be a major cost, but that wasn't part of the capital article.
okay. So do you think that there's policy in place related to the situation we found ourselves with the pools and the air conditioner?
That's what I mean, it's slightly different because the scope changed with that project. There were, the original project, I don't believe called for mini splits or anything like that. So that's why my recommendation was come back and get a consensus at that point, because it wasn't what was presented to town meeting.
So the process we followed, do you think that that's covered in policy today? It sounded like a good idea, but is it actually codified in policy?
It is not. It was strictly a recommendation based on experience from past projects.
Okay. So I kind of feel that scenario kind of needs policy behind it. That perhaps the 4 bodies or the 3 bodies, depending on what it is, kind of weigh in on, and then in the future, we know how to deal with such an issue, because I do see that might happen again.
So I would, and just regarding what I spoke to about the funding sources, if you are looking for it, let me get the section for you. It's section 3.02, capital budget. And you can find them. Select board policies and procedures on the website.
I think it would be easy enough just to say, the department or committee or board that put forward the capital project or capital request originally, if the scope changes, has to then represent it to whichever boards or committees, the select board, obviously, the capital planning committee, obviously, and then whomever else gets deemed.
Yeah,
It'd be easy
again,
enough to at least recommend that to the select board
yeah.
to add in.
I think it should be a fairly straightforward policy to write. It would just guide us in the future if that were to come about again.
Do you want to take a stab at putting something together then?
Maybe what I would say is, let's get concurrence from the other groups that the policy is warranted, maybe especially the select board, and then if so, maybe just work across those groups to write it.
Do you want to reach out to them, or since this is your...
Are you talking about that next select board meeting, Heather?
I wasn't planning on it, but I thought it would come up probably in the capital planning once they start their meetings.
Okay.
Can at least-
I've already discussed the roof project with the select board at the last meeting.
Yeah, I guess I can reach out.
At least to the chairs of them.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. All right. Any other topics for future meetings? At least initially? Okay. Do you want to circle back? Do we have a town manager report?
Sure, I can go through one of the things that happened since one last meeting. Finance committee. It was a short one, I know.
22nd of June.
Okay. All right, so we've had some bid openings and awards since then. A guardrail repair services bid that went to Premier Fence, and that was for $80,886. That is being funded through the Mass DOT Winter Recovery Assistance Program funding that we received this last year. And the state carried over that funding. They recognized that all cities and towns were experiencing supply chain issues and related services. So they gave the money to the towns, and it carried over through the fiscal year. The Page Street culvert replacement project, those bids came in, I think I may have reported this already, that was $86,913, and that was a capital plan appropriation. So that came in less than the capital plan estimate. The 5-year assessing reevaluation bids came in. We received one proposal from Vision, and they received the award. So they will be doing that project starting September 1st.
Do you have a number for what their bid was?
That was $112,000.
And that gets us all the way through the recertification?
Yes, they'll do the full reval.
Okay.
It's certification of our values, which is required every 5 years.
Is there anything that residents should know in advance of that?
That I would leave to the vendor to communicate, although they will be doing communication regarding that process. Part of it is to do a full field review, but that's drive-by inspection, visual, to make sure the class of homes are appropriate as they're classified in the system. It's not a measure and list, like cyclical inspections.
Okay, so nobody going onto people's property and measuring things or anything?
Correct, they'll be driving through
Slowly driving by.
neighborhoods.
Okay. And that starts in September, you said?
September, yes, first is when they'll kick off, but that doesn't mean that full field review will be
Right.
September, maybe a little later. The roadway maintenance of fog sealing, those bids came in. I'm just toggling here between my reports. I'll get you that number. I have to get back to that number. The snowplow bids are currently out. Those will be due on August 7th, I believe. But that's,
What'd you say they'd be delivered on?
no, due, bids are due.
August 7th.
Oh.
And we have a sewer operations and maintenance bid out as well, and that is due the same week, so in 4 weeks. 925 Mass Ave. I've been working with the EPA still on just more administrative paperwork that needs to be done as part of the removal of the materials and tanks on that property. So the drum was removed today. Tomorrow they'll be coming for the soil to remove that from the site. I submitted a grant through Mass Development for the Real Estate Technical Assistance Program. So hopefully we'll be hearing this fall about that grant. And the back to the fog ceiling, it was 103 to 33. That's and the senior center patio project is progressing according to schedule. Still looking for a September where it will be completed. And the architect that was working on the drawings for the Ritter ADA ramp has completed the drawings, and that application to the APDC should have been sent out today or tomorrow. So they'll be getting on the APD's schedule shortly, starting that process for review, as well as for the ramp, ADA ramp at the Ritter. Both are capital plan projects as well.
Whatever came about the windows with that project?
That is so the ABDC asked us to resubmit.
Just for the ramp, right.
For the windows.
For the windows as well?
The ramp, they had no issues with. It was the windows.
Right.
And so, and our previous architect retired, so we needed to get a new architect involved, update the drawings. During that process, it was found out the windows that are in that building currently aren't original to the building. They found historical pictures of when the building was built. So the windows that are being proposed look more like the actual original windows that are in the building.
Has that been approved yet, or is that included in this?
No, that's, the application goes to the APDC, and then they have to start their clock on review, a public hearing and review of the application.
Okay.
And, let's see. The generator project, the bid specifications are with the assistant town manager, so she's reviewing those. That will go out to bid when that review is done, as well as the public safety carpet project is currently under review. And soon, there was one other one, road materials for the DPW. It's being, will be put out to bid as well soon. And just an update for everyone that uses the TCP building. The school is no longer using School Do for reservation space, and that's what we use for the TC space as well. So that's been transitioned over to MyRec. The facilities department is handling that. So that's our temporary solution right now. For IT updates.
Just a question on that school dude thing, is that, are you saying that's only, is that for all of the schools or just for this was a debate in my house as to what you said at select board meeting?
I was told they terminated with School Dude, that platform. They were transitioning to a new platform.
The schools is transitioned to a new, are they using the MyRec in the meantime, or?
No, only the
Okay.
town's using the MyRec for obviously what we've used it all along for, but now the TCP reservations are on the MyRec
Okay.
as well. Brian I can't remember the software that they were going to for the school space. And for IT, the fiber at the town hall was installed by Comcast. We have our order in for new phone systems, and those will go in at the town hall, Ritter, library, the Lunenburg Adult Activity Center, and the DPW. So that will hopefully transition in the next couple months. There's a lot of paperwork that goes along with that transition as well that has to be filled out. The new website through Civic Plus, we expect to go live. The live date's been pushed out to September, and some training involved before it goes live. So those vacation got in the way for some different people. So that will be expected to go live sometime in later September. That's going well. And the migration is ongoing, or the migration of data is complete for Munis. We're now supposed to be in kind of a test training phase for Munis. We're waiting on some login information from them to make sure employees can get in and play around with the system.
Will the town website still be lunenburgma.gov?
Yes. If you look around at different town websites as well, Civic Plus does, like, countless, I would say most communities use Civic Plus, so Leominster, Littleton, yeah, you could pop up different ones, and majority of them are through Civic Plus. Go.
That's it? Thank you very much.
Heather, before you joined, I think, there was a question about the total amount of abatements that occurred. Do you have that number?
They went through the first, all of the abatements that were before them. A couple had to be amended. So there are like a few that there'll be additional amounts coming through in the next couple weeks for refunds. But that number is around 1.3, I think it's 1.7 million for the principal amount, and it's around 14,000 for the interest right now.
Can you say that first number again? 1 point?
I'll have to verify. I think it was 1.317.
When would the assessors release the excess money back to the town?
I would anticipate they wouldn't release it until everything is known for any potential ATB cases.
Okay. So their balance would be somewhere around $350,000.
There was 1.5, yes, and put into that overlay for these abatements.
Wasn't it 1.5 plus the 200 that they already had?
That's the 200 was for our normal cycle, yes. So we would have to reassess once we know if any appeals are made to the ATV for any of the abatements that were done this year.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right. Just to go back one more time, any other topics for future meetings before we wrap up? I think we'll have some after your email goes out.
Okay.
Last round of public comment from the public. Seeing none, any public comment from the committee? All right. For our upcoming meetings, we were scheduled to have another meeting on August 10th, but due to a couple people not being able to be here, I don't think we're gonna have quorum unless we end up getting a couple new members between now and then. So we're still tabling that meeting and likely not to have it at all. So our next meeting is probably going to be August 24th, and then we have the 2 weeks in September as well. But please, if you're not able to make any of those meetings, just let me know as soon as you can so that we can make sure that we have a quorum. Otherwise, if there's nothing else, I would happily entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?